trying to get the best out of them. And when things finally start to gel, to have them leave and go to other teams, I think that would be a horrible situation. You'd always feel as though you're starting back from square one. So I hope for these guys that they can find a core lineup, at least in this case with the current 5 they got, or whatever it might be, but a lineup in which has the same goals in mind, clearly wants to work together and stick it through, because they certainly have shown, at least in the last 2 nights from the opportunity that we have had to cast and watch them, that they do have a lot of young talent in their team. Twist, Invert, even Ruru as well. They've really been delivering on the scoreboard, and I think that for these guys, they've just got so much potential if they do stick together. Moving forward, I think they can really start to make a name for themselves as more than just a feeder team.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic opportunity in a sense that, as we said before, this North American CounterPit season actually doesn't have some of your top contending teams. So it doesn't have your Optics, your Liquids, your Cloud9s that are really the top contenders in the region. So essentially it's a chance for those lesser teams to really come through and gain some experience in that sense. So I'd be interested to see, obviously, how the team that wins the American CounterPit takes their opportunity and really pushes on, and whether or not they eventually start to become challengers within the region, because it's a great platform for young talent to really get that experience.
Should I just say as well, on a separate note, that I think it's just so wonderful for the game, be it in North America, but probably more generally in the entire Counter-Strike community, because we have the same thing here in Australia, seeing new organisations expanding into CSGO, whether that be completely new, their first game, or whether they're coming from another background such as LoL or Dota or StarCraft. I mean, you only have to look at teams in the American division, I do apologise, such as NRG or such as AGG, as we're witnessing tonight, these new teams, and I think it's wonderful for the scene. It just adds so much momentum and motivation to the players, and a lot of confidence. It gains a lot of interest for the scene. In Australia, we have a similar sort of thing where we're now seeing a lot of organisations starting to make their way into CSGO as it's booming. And I mean, I can only applaud the efforts of those who are involved in reaching out and expanding their brands, because it's such a wonderful thing to witness.
I think I echo those sentiments 100%, but I think we do need to be cautious in not forgetting those that have worked hard to develop the scene, those organisations that were there from day one. So obviously recognising their contribution as well is as equally important as recognising the contribution of newcomers to the scene.
So what we're saying, Jim, is basically we should be thanking everyone?
Of course.
Okay, just
liberally,
to clarify.
Liberally.
Of course. Okay. No, certainly share your sentiments as well, but it's great to see. I'm looking forward to what should be another great match here on Cache. In terms of the track record of both of these teams on this map, last night we did watch that AGG, or SKDC as they were tagged up last night, did go down at the hands of enemy, 16-11 on this map. We did see that they actually struggled on the second half on their terrorist side to get their groove on. They just seemed a little bit lost, a little bit without direction. So I'm hoping that in this 24 hours in which they've had there or thereabouts to at least rectify that and talk things through, that we do see a better showing from them, at least on that terrorist half. Certainly from what we just witnessed, you'd have to suggest that we would, just purely that they're based on the fact that their communication and teamwork seems to be on point. If you look back a little bit further as well, I mean, they had a close loss to Games Academy 14-16. They beat Dynamo 16-5, so they've had back and forth results. But I think this is a team that we're witnessing now that looks, at least tonight, like they're gelling a lot better and performing a lot better. From a Splyce perspective, again, we've seen them lose to Winterfox, we've seen them lose to Enemy, but we've seen them beat Winterfox, so nothing really to go by. And it really just fits that trend of teams that we're witnessing and watching that had this potential but aren't always delivering upon it.
Yeah, there's always that trap some teams sort of fall into after that honeymoon phase of, say, either a new roster change or a new organisation, of not necessarily performing at the same level that they started at, and it's essentially turned to the honeymoon phase where everything's just good, everything starts to feel quite right, and after that, I guess tendencies start to creep into the games, and it varies from team to team, obviously, how they deal with this, but of course, it's certainly not an unknown trend with Counter-Strike teams, or any teams for that matter.
Most definitely. I think in terms of this map in and of itself, I think from a Splyce perspective, because I want to put myself in their shoes, obviously they're the ones here who are having to come back from one map down. They're really on the back foot off the back of what was a pretty lackluster performance from Mirage, it's fair to say. I think for them, the fact that they seem to play their best when they're being aggressive will probably help them out more so on the terrorist side of Cache than it would on the terrorist side of Mirage. I think the layout of the map, particularly towards the B bomb site and even A main, means that you can get quite close to the bomb sites without necessarily initiating contact. And really, once you do decide to commit to a site, you can burst onto it and seemingly overwhelm the defense sometimes with numbers. So I think from their perspective, that'll probably be beneficial to them. We have seen them as well in previous matches be quite effective at taking control of mid very early on in the rounds. So I like this map more to their style. I can understand why they would have picked it as their own. I think from a team AGG perspective, they don't need to be on their guard. And I'd like to see Invert with that all actually rotating around and being very dynamic with his play. I think a shortfall that we've seen recently some of the American teams have fallen into is that they've sent their AWPer to the same position on the CT side of Cache every round. Not to pick out names, but I just can't help but think of NRG recently. We saw them struggle on their CT side of Cache when poor old Peter was just AWPing B every single round. I think it's important that you do have that dynamic play to keep the terrorists on their guard.
Yeah, that ability to really just change up the way that they're playing. A lot of teams sort of struggle with that in the early stages of their lifespan. Simply just not having the depth to deal with that just yet. Obviously, playing time is at a minimum at that stage. So their team chemistry is essentially what a lot of adaptability relies on. So if they don't find that in the early stages, as you say, a lot of teams become one-dimensional or are one-dimensional for the initial phases of their lifespan. And as they start to develop and build that team chemistry, that's when they become more dynamic. That's when they start to find those extra gears and can really start to go through them.
No, I share your sentiments, and do not be alarmed, or perhaps be alarmed, as we do see the players vacating the server. That's just because apparently there's just some server issues going on at the moment. So fear not, there is most certainly a second map. You have not missed anything. All that's gone down so far is that Team AGG Apparitions.game, the new organisation, which has picked up the old SKDC lineup, has just decimated Team Splyce on Mirage. 16-11, but a lot more convincingly than the scoreline reads. But now as we move on to the second map, Cache, the final map in this BO2 encounter, we will have just a little bit of time taken now just to make sure that all the players are comfortable, that everything's working before we do jump straight into the action. Just to reiterate that this is Splyce's map choice. But Jim, if we look at the bracket, I'm hoping that that's possible, because I just want to set some context as well.
Can.
Okay, good. You're very kind, Jim, because I just want to set some context, if I may, for some of the people who might just be joining us now or might just need a bit of a recap about how the season's gone so far. As we said, this is match number 7 of 10 in the season. There's 3 more nights to go, including tonight, Jim. Is that correct? Including tonight? Yes.
You are correct.
Correct. So 4 matches to be played in 3 nights, including tonight. And really, if you look at that table at the moment, this is anyone's competition still. Enemy have played their 4 games. They're done for the season. They're finished on 5 points. Whilst they are currently leading, I think it would be extremely unlikely, near impossible, given the results which might play out for them to stay in that position. Unfortunately for them, I think their season's done. But certainly teams such as AGG are in the driver's seat right now. NRG as well. They've won one and drawn one. So they're right there ready to capitalise. But it's so important. You can see how close the points are distributed, that teams are getting that 2-0 victory. We've seen so many draws. I mean, you can see that there's really only been 2-0. I'll rephrase that. There's only twice have we seen a 2-0 victory in one of the 6 series in which we've casted so far. There have been a lot of 1-1 draws, which is really a reflection of teams' abilities to bounce back after losses on the first map, but also perhaps the fact that they really do rely on particular maps in the map pool and that they really do have their strengths and weaknesses. But the point we're trying to make here is that now that we're at the business engine, there's so much of a premium placed on getting those wins to give yourself the best chance to go to Croatia.
Well, that's exactly right. We see the 2 teams at the top of the scoreboard there, on the bracket, that they're the only teams that have actually taken wins this entire season.
Yeah.
So, and they find themselves at the top of the scoreboard with only 3 nights left of CounterPit.
What a surprise, the team's winning here at the top.
But, I mean, they've won so little, so that's how close this season of North American CounterPit is, and that it's going to go right down to the wire. We probably won't know who's actually going to be representing the North American region right until the final night. So there's still
but that's best case scenario, isn't it?
That is.
I mean, I know we had the same situation in Australia where it wasn't until the final night that we knew that Immunity would be our representatives. And I think you're exactly right. We'll probably find ourselves in a similar situation here, but it just adds to the suspense, to the narrative of it all. And I think it just justifies what has been an incredible season so far, that it gets to go to that final night. I'd much prefer that as opposed to just a blowout win or to one team or something like that. I think it's a really good thing for the scene that teams are showing that they're capable of beating each other on their day, or on their map is probably a better choice of words, given the fact that not many teams have yet secured 2-0 victories. But fear not, all 10 players are now in the server. Everything looks to be resolved, guys. So momentarily, we will be bringing you the second map of Team AGG versus Team Splyce. Of course, AGG being newcomers to the Counter-Strike Go scene, at least in the competitive sense. Of course, AGG standing for Apparitions Got Game. Fantastic to see them coming on board and picking up an up-and-coming team, and really looking forward to this second map here, because for Splyce's sake, it's so important that they do get a draw. Otherwise, their season could well be over.
It could well be over, and as we said, it's all to play for here. Now, I know in our tenure at the Australian CounterPit, obviously we were broadcasting Australian CS to the world, we actually tried Aussie pistols. Now, of course, we are now in Rome. Do we try our hand at American pistols?
I was bad enough at the... But just to provide some context, you're of course talking about doing pistol rounds, playing it up as much as possible, throwing as much Aussie slang and accent as we could.
Accent.
And I got absolutely abused and annihilated by Twitch chat for my poor effort. So I can only imagine how well an NA pistol would go down if I try and put on an American accent. I don't even know any American lingo, Jim.
Well, I'm not too sure there, Jim.
Oh my god.
Nicholas. I'm just going to channel your inner American. I think I
we're never going to do
as a youngster
again, mate. We're offending everyone when you do that.
As a youngster, I of course was raised on Sesame Street, so I'm well versed. Of course, Big Bird was one of many teachers throughout my lifetime. So, of course, I've channeled Big Bird here with that American accent attempt, but I don't think we should dare do it.
No, we certainly shouldn't, Jim Nassau. It's horrible, man. I got nothing.
Stop.
I got nothing. I warned you. But in any case, it seems we're going backwards here. So we now find ourselves in a situation in which we've gone from 10 players to 0 players. And not even a coach, as Garrett also vacates. But fear not, we understand. I'm not sure, given the location of these two teams, obviously with a lot of players based in Canada and the others based in America, if this is a good thing or a bad thing. However, I understand that they're relocating to a Chicago server. Now, I am the first to admit that geography...
Winter Fox server.
I'm not sure if that's a... Oh, yes, that's right. Winter Fox, based in the Steel Series headquarters in Chicago. My geography skills, though, aren't up to speed enough to know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for this match, but can only assume it's a good thing. Otherwise, why would they go there, Jim?
Well, it really just depends on where the players are based. Obviously, SKDC, the majority of those guys are based in, my understanding, is Canada. So,
3 of the 5, yep.
3 of the 5. So that's actually... It depends on where in Canada, I guess.
Yeah, so basically we haven't gained much information at all
if they're
from
in
that.
Ontario, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Because that's fairly close to my understanding, at least roughly remembering geography of. But if they're in British Columbia, then it's going to be a fair whack. Okay, and I think from memory, potentially some of them are in British Columbia.
Can I throw you a perhaps controversial question though, given that we've got a little bit of time here until we're all good to go? If we're real for a second, we've already, I just disclosed the fact that potentially some of these teams are up-and-comers and this would be their first opportunity to represent their region. Given the quality of teams in which potentially the winner would be going up against, we're talking about the likes of teams which have already been invited in the form of Astralis, NVS, Navi and Virtus Pro, also joining the likes of the Australian qualifier, Immunity, and 2 European qualifier candidates, which are still underway at the moment, still to be determined. Does the winner of this NA CounterPit regional qualifier stand a chance against the likes of those teams, Jim? Well, now is the time to wreck some hearts.
Depends which teams, to be honest. Some of those middle-tier European teams, from what we've seen so far, there's definitely an opportunity for them to do some damage and at least get some experience on the board. But I think the 4 invited teams, Tier 1 teams, essentially, you're not going to set your hopes unreasonably against those guys. So I think there's opportunity, of course, to get experience playing against that caliber of team, that caliber of player as well. whilst they might not be able to beat them and make deep runs into the tournament, they're certainly going to learn from that experience. And if they're placed in a group stage with some of these middle-tier European teams, this can certainly do damage.
The Australian team, Jim.
Or the Australian team immunity, definitely. Because let's not beat around the bush. The Australian teams have actually done well in the past, but it's been a little while since team immunity were overseas. But of course, they've navigated their way through the Australian CounterPit season, and they'll be looking to make the most of their opportunity there. I think it's still only about 5.5 weeks away, actually.
That's right, 17th to 18th of March, the finals to be held in beautiful Split, Croatia. You only need to have a quick Google search of the countryside to see how incredible it's going to be. I think they're playing the finals actually in the 10,000-seat Splyce Arena, which will be incredible. I think actually, from what I could find in some of our research for this, they actually play ice hockey, I think, there sometimes. So it's a big sporting arena. It'll be an incredible spectacle and a truly global experience. Just to confirm a point that you did make as well with regards to team immunity, I think the last overseas competition which they attended was actually the DreamHack Cluj-Napoca qualifiers. I think it was actually titled DreamHack Open Stockholm. Renegades were also in attendance. We actually saw ultimately immunity fall at the hands of what was Dignitas, I do believe, at the time in the deciding match, which would have seen them qualify for the Cluj-Napoca major, but wasn't to be. But you're right, that's been probably more than 3 to 4 months now since then. So they'll be coming in essentially with
more than 3 months.
Yeah, more than 3 months. Yeah, they'll be coming in with some, I guess, high expectations of being able to perform well, much like these American teams will, or the American team, which does qualify shortly. So I'm really looking forward to see how well these teams go against the likes of some really high-quality opposition. But I do understand we are now joining the Chicago 7, which the players have joined. I'm not sure what the weather's like in Chicago today, Jim. I might actually give it a quick Google because I want to give some context to the match. It's important to understand.
Some conditions here at the data center.
Okay, so the current. Jim, you're right.
It is windy.
Okay, so it's currently 6 degrees Celsius. Now I'm not sure if any of our viewers will know what that means. That is apparently 43 degrees Fahrenheit, Jim. Light rain and showers. 86% humidity. That's not good. That's never good.
Well, it's almost like here in Australia at the moment. I swear the humidity's up in the mid-80s to almost the 90s. It's about 34 degrees today here.
I started to panic a bit though, Jim, when I saw 43 degrees. I didn't realise that was Fahrenheit. I thought the poor guys were absolutely boiling to pieces. It was that hot, but no, just had to get my conversion right. But no, you're right. So that's the condition here for this match on Cache. So windy, 18km/h winds. Some light rain here, 9 p.m. at night in this server, and I think that'll really have an impact on this match as it unfolds, because obviously it's never nice when there's rain and storm about. Can be quite cold. The player models certainly don't like that. They like to be playing in the sun. So we'll see how that all fares for them.
I might just jump into the game and show some of the fantastic new American talent. Bot Xander, I believe, has just made his way into the AGG lineup. No, I kid entirely, but of course they are rejoining the server. So rather than just bore you with our terrible chat on American weather conditions,
I don't think it was boring.
Have you had time to work on your American accent in that that brief respite?
The only thing, I mean, I've been to America numerous times, but yet it still doesn't help me out in terms of being able to put on an American accent, unfortunately. So, I mean, all I can do is share my experiences. I've never been to Chicago. I'm sure that would be wonderful. I don't think people really want to hear about my travel experiences, though, Jim. Maybe they do.
Or lack thereof.
Maybe they do. No, I've been to New York, Boston, Florida, Seattle, Los Angeles. I've been everywhere except where this server's being actually played, I think, Jim.
Omaha, New York, LA. What can I say?
Oh god, dropping some rhymes, are we? But in any case, do you think that the fact that there's been a little bit of a pause here in terms of getting all the server configuration sorted and stuff? I mean, what's your take on that from a player perspective in terms of the impact that may or may not potentially have on this match?
It can work either way, really. It can work to either help reset the Splyce mentality, because obviously they were on the receiving end of a little bit of a drubbing there. I think the scoreline in the end really just flattered them a little bit. It was more so AGG forced to go on a series of a couple of ecos there after losing close rounds. So the scoreline was probably a little bit flattering in the sense that Splyce really didn't make the game as close as the scoreline would suggest. But of course, after perhaps resetting mentally, they might be able to get themselves back into this. Or likewise, a lack of action and whatnot could work against them. So,
no, I think you're right in the first instance. I think the break will help them. I think it'll help to detach themselves from what was a lackluster performance. I think as well it'll probably help depending on which perspective you're coming from, but it will probably see AGG cool off a little bit. Obviously, we were seeing players such as Twists, also Ruru. I think Els at one point as well came up huge with the sick clutch. So those guys were really hot on the first map, and unfortunately for them, I think the fact there's been a bit of a pause here is probably going to see them having to reignite that fire. It might take them a couple of rounds to get going, but all 10 players are now in the server. The coaches are here. Garrett's with us, which is good to see, and they're now readying up. So thank you for sticking with us. You've been so persistent, as were we, mind you. We've persisted, Jim. But in any case, the players will now knife.
we try.
We do what we can.
This will be the second knife round, Nick, or do you want me to have
You can do it. You can do it.
Oh, goodness. I can't believe you gave me creative freedom in this instance.
Come on, mate. It started.
But of course, here we're on the map D Cash, coming into the first, well, the initial exchanges with the knife round here. They're going to engage in what is the mid connector there. Slash is coming in left, right, and center as they do engage in what would best be discerned as a melee combat.
He's lit. He's
absolutely lit. And of course, the knife round convincingly won there by Team AGG. So they will have their pick of sides and, of course, be able to determine the outcome of this map early on.
Oh, we're never getting casting you ever again, mate. Actually, no, to be fair, though, I actually thought from my perspective, I don't care what the Twitch chat says. I thought that was actually really good. I'm impressed, mate. So you won me over with that. Probably the only one in the Twitch chat, but I thought it was great. We will see Splyce starting on the counter-terror side. Probably to be expected. I do question though. I mean, I said this the other day when we were watching, I don't even remember which match. I think it was Winterfox. Correct me if I'm wrong there, where we saw a team really struggle in the first half and they only got going on the terrorist side and questioned their decision. It was Winterfox, questioned their decision to start out on CT side on the second map. And it's a similar thing for me where we saw Splyce have their most success on the terrorist side of Mirage. Surely you'd want to keep that pace going, that control of the game going that you would only have on that terrorist side. But as it is, they've gone to what they prefer best. We'll see them studying on the CT side. Of course, we do have Professor Chaos, Abe, Aria, Jason R, and Davey representing Splyce. And of course, Twist, Els, Ruru, Ocean, and Invert on the Team AGG side. Apparition's got game. And for the time being, Jim, they're heading towards the A bomb site, these terrorists.
That they are, but they have someone up the boost. I believe it's Els that's actually perched so eloquently up in the mid. Now, they're going to make their way into this A site, and of course that lurk is going to come in late with Els trying to catch someone off guard. They will get that bomb down, but of course, Arya almost given a gift there, not able to capitalize the bomb hitboxes there, perhaps robbing him of a chance to prevent that plant. Now, the Splyce players are streaming onto this A site. Of course, the smokes have now faded. And that lurk from Els is going to come in and be a factor here. He is making his way up the highway. Of course, the CTs are already locked into this site. And last member remaining there, Davey, is going to be put under a little bit of pressure. He does want to frag onto Ocean there. So, of course, does prevent himself from dying in that instance. But he really doesn't have a chance to win this round because that timer is ticking. And he doesn't have a chance without a kit. So, Twist just simply putting the final nail in the coffin there. And they take the pistol. Team AGG resuming where they left off last map.
That's right, Twist in particular, fantastic 4K, but can we just take a moment to, I guess, appraise what we saw from Arya there? I mean, the poor guy, his luck certainly is not going his way tonight. I mean, you suggested it was the bomb hitboxes, that's probably right, but the fact that Invert still committed to that plant instead of getting off on the back of that pressure, I actually thought that was a hilarious decision. I thought
he had
that was
his back turn. He had his back turn. If you couldn't see him, he wasn't there.
And yeah, if you look away from it, I mean, eyes closed, nothing to worry about, but as it was, he still managed to get the bomb down, and AGG, they'll take that. I mean, they'll certainly be happy. You can see the difference here in playstyle. They've actually got 4 SMGs in hand. We saw Splyce, we almost critiqued their very conservative play going for 4 rifles, be that AK or Galil when they were playing Mirage. Well, this is the opposite to that. This is a team that's aggressive, that's confident, that wants to build up as much bank as they possibly can. We do see Arya, though, taking down Ruru, so that's a good job from his perspective. It's important that they do get these map 10s really into the face of the CT so they can use that close range danger that they do possess to the best advantage. And Els does that, drops Davey in. Good use of utility there should allow them entry into the B side.
We'll just Invert here, cleaning up the potential flank from the remaining members of Splyce. Jason and both Professor Chaos just trying to snag themselves some exit frags here. Of course, they're just going to now save their pistols. They've made that call. They want to take those into the next round. Of course, just Professor Chaos with the basic USP there. He's the one that can afford to try and hunt. And he does find a frag there onto L, so crisp headshot coming through. And he might be lucky here because the HPs could be a massive factor in this exchange because they're simply one shot away from being capped.
That's right, they're caught in limbo here where they need to get away from the bomb, but they know that they're so low as we do see Professor Chaos punishing them. So exactly as you spoke of, but can't really stay too close to the bomb, but don't want to go too far away because they're in danger of getting shot. And I think the communication there from Splyce to really recognise that they've done a lot of damage to the members of AGG was on point. That's why Professor Chaos was so intent on going for those frags and did a fantastic job there, picking up 2 frags in the end for his team. They were lit. Well, one member wasn't. It was actually quite high, but that final member was. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to recover the gun, but still did a lot of damage there onto AGG. We can see that this time they're opting for a little bit more mid-presence, boosting invert over. It's just scouting out. Obviously, nothing to go by at this stage because the CTs, they're playing quite passive. Jason Aria is in the Z connector. Meanwhile, we do see Aria pushing the door down a little bit frag hungry, and of course, Twist in the form that he's in, he just makes mincemeat of that as he drops Aria. Aria not having the best of nights tonight, the poor thing. Just not his night, Jim.
You make him sound like he's a pet.
He's just got so much responsibility. I mean, the in-game leader, the captain, the AWPer. You just want him to have a break, Jim.
It's a hard knock.
He hasn't had a break tonight.
They're making their way across this A site, making their way downtown. And they're going to catch Jason R in this door. He's going to try and do some damage with that Deagle. Of course, not able to do so. Ruru taking him down so quickly. And, of course, is able to find that frag onto A before he can do any damage in that A site. They are going to take the range battle here. The MAC-10. Actually, I thought that was a MAC-10. It was effective as a MAC-10. Twist is going to engage with the USPs here at long range. He takes a bit of damage for his trouble there. Of course, is able to finally do some damage with the help of his teammate Els. And that AK of Ocean, I do believe, does fall there. So, it was only a MAC-10. So it wasn't as damaging as I thought. But they were willing to take that fight. And, of course, the armor rebuy will come in as a penalty for dying to the full pistol eco. First gun round here, though. Important exchange for Splyce.
Alright, serious talk time. We've seen in the past that Splyce have struggled on their CT cache, especially in recent history against Winterfox. And when they struggled, it wasn't as though Winterfox were being aggressive, they were just taking their time. It was actually the site defenses that were really getting overwhelmed when that late attack came in. But Aria trying to mix up the pace here, trying to, I guess, prevent that late round situation by getting an early frag, and does a good job there of dropping L's. You can see AGG moving towards the A bomb site, but nothing to go by except for one flash, and that's not going to be enough there as A punishes them for that overconfidence in that instance. Twist has gone down. It's now a 5-on-3 situation here, and AGG with their backs against the wall, at least in this round. Now the utility's coming out. I question where this was a good 15 seconds ago. You can see that Abe there can't quite get the position that he wants at forklift. Now that the smoke and fire has dissipated, though, he will reposition himself and get the drop onto Ocean, but he is taken down eventually. He still has a lot of work to do, though, with only Invert on 2 points of health. Ruru on 100. Ruru now finds himself the sole surviving member here in the door. Of course, the lurker for the team, and his position now known, so it'll be very tough from here. He is trying to spot them out. Jason R gets a tag onto him. They can't quite finish him off, though. They're so hungry, but it's important from a CT perspective that they don't get over greedy here. I mean, they've got the bomb. They've got everything that they need as the time ticks away here. They just need to be patient. They'll eventually kill him if they wait long enough. And that they do. Good job there, Professor Chaos. 4 members surviving for Splyce.
That was simply maniacal, trying to run onto the A site without any utility. I realised that we're trying to force the issue there with that AWP, but nonetheless, the rifle simply just running into a trap. Both CTs just waiting for him, and he was picked off also easily. So I'm not too sure whether, as you said, that they should have waited for some utility to be expended, because those guys that did actually take those fights and exchanges and lose had utility that they never actually used in that round. So what a waste.
That's right. I mean, why are you going to buy it if you're not going to use it? Obviously, it's easy to say in hindsight, though, of course. We can see AGG forcing the issue here. They can afford to buy. Unfortunately, for Ocean's sake, the in-game leader, he has had to sacrifice. Only has a Tech 9 in hand, but you can see the intent has changed here. They want to take control of mid. Perhaps a mid to B split, because we do see Ruru there. Oh, not the Benson. Abe there, caught in no man's land. I'm not sure what he was looking at there, and he's punished as a result. They will now collapse onto the B side, but there's 3 defenders here. Ruru gets one, and then Davey steps out from behind the checkers box and punishes another 2. So good defense by Team Splyce in this instance. having 3 members towards B. They made the right read, and all the frags going their way at the moment, bar 1 there to invert. We can see that L's the last man alive, and whilst he has got the bomb, he is quickly getting pincered.
And they are closing that net around him. Of course, he has an opportunity to escape at B main if he chooses to take that exit option, but he's going to try and force the issue here at B. They know where he is, so I think maybe if he bided his time a little bit better, he would have been able to at least convince some of the CTs to perhaps rotate away from that side. As it is, he's taking the fight here, and Jason R just nicely positioning himself around that triple box, able to get the frag and bring up the second round for Splyce. And more importantly, 3 members surviving from Splyce too, so a chance to build their economy.
Yeah, really good work. I'm just wondering in my head how much of that was a deliberate decision to stack 3 towards B, or whether they had some sort of early read or counter strat. That's potentially what AGG like to do when they smoke out of mid and show that mid presence, because it was a really unconventional setup, but obviously decimated team AGG as they went to attack the B side here. This is much more conventional from them. They're going for a 2-1-2 setup, and we can see from an AGG perspective, they are on eco. They do have a few flash and smoke grenades to try and get them into the site, but with the close positioning of Splyce, you'd imagine it would be quite difficult. It is going to be Abe who sees the first action. He drops 1, does have the Mac or the MP7 in hand, and really reaping the rewards at the moment in terms of money that it does offer. Tags the third, tags the fourth, can't quite convert though, but he's doing the damage, and really there's no chance here for AGG. It's just a matter of time, and that time is now, as we do see Splyce level the scores, 3-all. AGG, your move.
That's right, we need to see whether or not these apparitions do indeed have game. So they will come into this fully bought. They will invest in what we term as a gun round, so it's their move to see what they can get out of this Splyce side. The Splyce side have tightened up their defense a little bit in these last couple of rounds, and really that's what's got them back into the game. They're making the good reads mid-round and really putting the pressure as Ocean opens up the round. Jason R falling through the smoke, and a CT push is completely eliminated by Ruru. So that double push through the door is being absolutely punished, and as quickly as things began, it's now down to a 2 versus 5, and both CTs, as you can see, one's pushed through the mid connector, the other one sitting in the Z connector, will be forced to try and save their guns, I'd imagine, unless they can get some early frags here. Picking up the double, speak of which, Aria doing the best to try and get his team back in the round, and as quickly as that happened, it's now back to a 2 versus 3, and good position here in A main from the CT coming in. Aria missing a shot, but of course making amends with that P250. Abe able to find another teammate, but of course this side is completely wide open. They're checking the squeaky door, but of course he's nowhere near the site at all. Els has got a lot of work to do, of course, spraying through that smoke, not able to do it. What a retake! 2 versus 5. I thought they were down and out completely. That double from Aria really opening things up.
Oh my goodness gracious, how on earth did that happen? Obviously the double certainly helps their cause there, but there is absolutely no reason in the world why that should have gone the way of Splyce. I mean, that third frag in particular stands out for me that Aria got, where he was standing there on the toxic barrels, spotting out one member at quad who, despite repeatedly tapping away with his pistol, didn't feel the need to turn around and give Aria any sort of respect or attention. They were punished as a result, so potentially around there, gifted to Team Splyce, and maybe that's going to be enough to really spur them on and get them back into the game in this instance, because if we're fair, they have had a few unlucky rounds go their way so far tonight, and at the moment, maybe they're finally having luck turn their way. They do currently lead 4-3. They do catch Ruru off guard there. I'm not quite sure if he was flashed or whether it was just the potential step from Abe that caught him off guard there. There was certainly a flash that was thrown into the door. I'm just questioning whether it was a little bit too deep, but as it stands at the moment, 4-on-3, the situation reads Splyce. All 3 members grouped up in mid, but the defense, they've really set up a wall across the map. You can see all 4 members really, I guess, in a line, locking down their respective choke points at the moment. You can't help but feel that as soon as they spot eyes onto some of the terrorist presence in mid, that they will be able to collapse. But invert there, wonderful headshot through the box. Professor Chaos makes his position known as well as he spots the terrorist, but all of a sudden, AGG, they're making this round work for them when really it shouldn't have from a 3-on-4 situation. The bomb will get down. I like the position there from invert now in A main as well, so much better holding from them at this stage. You'd have to say this is their round to lose, but as Ocean gets blinded, Jason and R and Davey will really capitalise and get 2 frags for themselves, so all left up to do for invert here. You can see Davey quite low on HP, and Jason not expecting invert to be there near that boost position. Instead suspects that he would be in the A main, but as a result of Davey faking that bomb, both the CTs can focus their attention on that direction, and they do take him down. So good retake there from Splyce. Again, some more signs of life here, but that should never have been a round in which they needed to retake in any case.
you liken the CT defense to a wall. Well, I'm not too sure who built that wall because it has a massive hole in it.
Yeah, don't hire that builder.
Don't hire that builder.
There's some problems with the mortar in that wall. I mean, it looked good on face value, but crumbled instantly. But in the end, those final few bricks were able to get the job done.
It's not going to keep the rabbits out.
Well, 5-3. But Jim, this is an opposite, isn't it, to Mirage, where if we look at the scoreboard, we've seen 5 rounds in a row going Splyce's way. So now they're able to establish some momentum. They're the ones dictating the pace at the moment, and AGG are the ones struggling to have an impact.
They really are struggling to have an impact at the moment, as Splyce seem to have all the answers on the retakes. So just a little bit of love tap coming in there from Professor Chaos onto his teammate there, Aria. They are going to work this B main though. That bomb is positioned there. 3 members of AGG in total. As Davey steps, unlucky not to get a second there. Twist would have been completely flashed, but still able to get the trade on his teammate Ruru with the single bullet. That's all he needs to eliminate the man in mid. Aria completely found wanting there, as they now make their way into this B site. The other CT, the supporting CT, has been locked out, so there's only that man in the site, as Ocean actually finds Professor Chaos up there. Jason R quickly on the flank and flying through, doing his best Superman impression. He does find a frag, of course, finding the last one there. Abe able to finally trade that one out. So that was fast, furious action, but of course the trades really didn't favour the T's at all.
Well, that's right. That was another round. I mean, that was a 4-on-3 in which the terrorists were up in that instance. But again, just Splyce making things happen for them. This is what we weren't seeing last map on DE Mirage. This time it was Abe on that fast flank, picking up a double there. Able to seal the deal with that nice 1v1 frag in the end, as that final terrorist swiveled on a dime to focus his attention on Abe, but couldn't quite convert the frag. So great work by Splyce. You can see that they're really, I mean, their hopes and championship aspirations for this competition rest on this match here. They must win this map. We have seen that they've already lost Abe in this instance. Twist, they're getting the frag, but it will be Els that gets the second and really opens up the sight for them, as he does take down Jason R after losing one of his teammates there. We do see Professor Chaos flushes out invert there. Good use of the Molotov or incendiary grenade, I should say, and as a result gets that frag as he's forced to step away from the bomb spot. Can they retake again? They're looking like it. They've got another couple of frags. All of a sudden, Ocean, he's going to be asking his teammates, how are we losing these rounds? He goes down in a bed of flames, and Aria confirms what will be another successful retake for Splyce. 7 rounds in a row, 7-3 they lead, and Splyce are finally coming alive tonight for the first time.
They are doing exactly what AGG did to them on Mirage. So obviously slightly different circumstances. They are on CT now, on the preferred side on Case, that slightly advantageous side, but nonetheless they are just stringing rounds together, and I'm sure by now AGG now know what it's like to be on the receiving end of some pummeling. So an important round coming up here. Obviously both teams fully invested in this one, and they are going to make their way ever so slowly across the map. A really default approach, a really cautious approach from AGG so far, and in a key round for them.
I would just say, I think for me, when we're seeing a team such as AGG in this instance, but it could be any team, nice frag there, Aria, consistently, or at least repeatedly losing these, I guess, post-plant situations, nice shot, Professor Chaos. I mean, they've had favourable numbers, they've got the bomb down, and yet Splyce seemingly can do no wrong as they win these situations. To me, I think that's just a sign of perhaps a team that's panicking a little bit. I think the inexperience perhaps shining through there, where they're just not able to stay calm and make the frags that they need to, because there should really be no explanation as to why Splyce could continually win from man-down situations in which the bomb has been planted. I think AGG almost need to just take a break for a second just to regather their composure, because at the moment, whilst they're down 7-3, really, with the situations in which they found themselves, they should be up on the scoreboard, in my opinion. At the moment, they don't have to make it work with just 3 members. Twist there, catches Davey off guard, moving in from Highway. Ocean as well, follows that up, and as Invert gets a third, all of a sudden, they find themselves in another favourable situation. Now, surely we say they can't throw this round away, as we do see the bomb gets planted. Invert spots one out from forklift, and a lot of damage being inflicted. And with both CT members just having AWPs in hand, you see them having to revert to pistols, but through the smoke, Professor Chaos drops one. Aria with a nade again. 2 versus 1, they connect with an AWP, and once again, Jim, a 3 versus 2 situation. AGG, far too aggressive, they're punished, and Team Splyce really taking advantage of some poor play here from AGG.
I'm not too sure why that terrorist was trying to force the issue there at the truck. They had the power of position. Now, he was sitting there on his lonesome against 2 CTs, and they were simply just able to clean him up and then force the 2-on-1, which, again, a T in another terrible position at the forklift. He had all the time in the world to reposition himself, but of course, not able to do so, and the post plant was once again there for the taking. AGG not able to capitalise, and Splyce get their 8th round in a row.
If you look at the scoreboard, you can see that Splyce have actually won by defuse in 4 of the last 5 rounds. And I'm willing to bet that in nearly every situation, they were a man down as well. So that's the sort of, I guess, momentum that we're talking about, that they're wrestling away from AGG in really a round in which they shouldn't. But Jim, as they move on to the A side, they'll be desperate to some more success here, Team AGG.
They make their way onto that side. Twist is doing a good job. He's solid for his team, getting that entry once again into the A side. They're getting into this site quite well. They're actually getting the bomb down and fragging out in the first instances, but it's their post player that's really letting them down. And again, their post plant is going to be tested. A 2 versus 4, but from what we've seen so far, this is certainly not undoable. That grenade's going to do a lot of damage if it hits its mark. No, it's actually the couple of bullets sprayed through the smoke that do the most amount of damage, taking down Twist, and now flashing into the site. Ocean in good position. Ruru finding that frag, and finally AGG hold strong in post-plant positions.
Finally being the key word there. I mean, they had so many opportunities. I think the secret to success from an AGG perspective is to take the bomb site and then don't plant the bomb, and they'll find ways to get frags. The bomb is a bad omen for them. As soon as they put it down, they seemingly die there. But from an AGG perspective, they'll be, I guess, breathing a sigh of relief that at last they've been able to close out a round in which they should have won. We did see them actually execute quite well onto A. Again, getting the opening frags, which they've done so well all half, but it was the better positioning and obviously the utility grenades which they'd saved, which ultimately helped seal the deal as they took down those last few members of Splyce.
And just a really slow, methodical approach coming out here from AGG. They're going to set some smokes up and try and force their way into A here. I believe those smokes are just setting themselves up for a few picks. They do have themselves outside. Great position there from Els, eliminating the push from Aria into the B main and finding themselves a man down quite early here. And they are making their way in. Of course, Jason R does find the frag. Ruru actually jumping the gun, getting in the site ahead of his teammates. Not supported at all. And now they are going to stream their way onto this A site. The fast and furious frags are coming in. Invert finally finds Jason R through the side of that crate on the forklift. They're going to try and boss their way into that site and find the bomb plant. But if they're not careful, they could find themselves flanked here in A main. Davey does find that flank. Exactly that. Buys a little bit of time for his teammate. Of course, Professor Chaos is a world away, though, and needs to get to help his teammate quite quickly. If there are any chance of retaking this round, of course, the post-plant positions are actually really quite decent.
Yeah, I don't like this at all, though, because there was too much indecision there from Professor Chaos, Jim. I think he was actually intent on saving. Davey, meanwhile, got a frag and said, "Where are you, mate?" But in the meanwhile, Professor Chaos just wants to keep that all forward to the next round. I hate that decision there from Splyce. Both teammates not on the same page there. One wanting to go for it, one wanting to frag, one wanting to save his gun, and we see what the end result is as Davey loses his life. Professor Chaos will now have to sprint away to try and save his. But Jim, they're doing a good job of getting into the A side. I think it's fair to say. At least the last couple of rounds now, they're doing a good job of closing out those rounds as well.
They're doing a great job now. They're starting to be a little bit more calm in those post-plant positions. As we saw, we saw them trying to force the issue, trying to force themselves down the city's throats and take and contest those choke points when they're better off actually holding back in the sites and setting up some crossfires, not individually peeking and trying to take one-on-one fights when they don't have to. So, starting to get the better of Splyce, and now, as we see, Splyce only saving out that AWP on Professor Chaos. The pistols are not really doing anything too special at the moment. I would have been more of a fan of seeing them bunch up and, I guess, playing Pied Piper and having that one AWP really leading the charge and leading his CTs around the map. But as it is, Splyce is simply just self-destructing and running into choke points one by one. That AWP, though, is able to square the ledger at least, grabbing Twist as he gets up that boost. But Els is going to put some pressure on the extremities of the map. Massive headshot there into the B main and will force these CTs, the remaining CTs, to rotate through. Of course, Abe in a great position here to pick up the frag on Els. He does just that. And now it's a 2 versus 3. That AWP actually comes into play with a massive frag coming in. If he'd only peeked around that corner, he would have been able to stop the bomb from being planted. Of course, Professor Chaos not knowing what we knew with the overlay, and now a 2 versus 2 retake, Nick.
Well, that's right. You can see one member there. Abe moves up onto the catwalk, trying to get some elevation and leverage into the site, but he does get punished. Ocean, well aware of that threat, and all of a sudden it's left up to the man who saved the AWP. He has swapped it out though for an AK, and as he moves in, Ocean doing the dance around the box there does take him down, and in the end, Splyce go down in a round in which probably they should never have really had an opportunity, to be fair. They were eco apart from the AWP, but I agree with everything you said in regards to the fact that if you've got an AWP saved, and the rest of your team on an eco, Why on earth are you not letting the AWP make the first exchange? You had CTs there running into B main dying before really Professor Chaos had an opportunity to perhaps recover them some weapons, to give them an opening into the round. Complete waste of life in my opinion at least, but as it is, we moved on to the final round of the half and all 10 players on the server now well equipped. You can see that the terrorists off the back of winning 3 rounds in a row now have a lot of utility to play with. You can see 4 Molotovs, 4 smokes, actually make it 5 smokes as well, so they're certainly, I guess, have a dank bank at the moment to support this sort of gameplay. You can see Splyce, on the other hand, they've had to go without head armor. That's not so much of an issue given the fact that with AWPs and AKs in the hands of their opponents, there's still 1 shot, 1 kill to the head in any case. And Davey looks to be the first man to potentially take a bit of a fight here as he sees that nade from Els, knows he's close. I like the fact that he just slowly stepped out there on the angle. He didn't rush himself. He didn't take a wide peek in case there were perhaps a few more players there. And he was rewarded by getting that frag and setting up his team well.
And they're going to need to capitalise on that early setup as they are now Ruru just crawling under the crosshair. Professor Chaos invert able to get that frag though, so well worked already from AGG, and they do have this they do eliminate the man advantage that Splyce does have. Davey does his best though to try and hold on to it. He will be Molotov'd out of position there. That Molotov will force him to take the fight and check as his Twist actually cops some team damage as well. Davey just steps through that smoke though and eliminates 2, grabbing the bomb and importantly just delaying this T take onto the site. Twist now has to go 1 on 3. Does spot the feet of Arya, just getting a little bit too keen there, showing some shoelace. And now just forcing this 2 versus 1. He still only has 16 seconds left on the clock and really needs to make his move into this site. Of course, Jason R is in great position. Davey is supporting him well, and he needs to make this cross. This is the dangerous part of the evening. That 1 bullet just does it all. And 9-6 the halftime score. A great little comeback there from AGG at the end. Of course, they were on the opposite end of a whopping, but managed to make it work.
All right, 2 perspectives here. From a AGG perspective, I think you've got to be ruining the missed opportunities. They finished the half with 6 rounds. I think if you were to, I guess, replay that half with the start of every round unfolding the same way as it was in some sort of imaginary CS simulator, I think that probably a 10-5 scoreline in their favour, if not 11-4, was probably a better reflection of how well they were opening up the bomb sites. But then, unfortunately for their sake, they weren't able to capitalise and finish that off. But from a Splyce perspective, you had so many things go your way in that half. All of those retakes on at least 4 or 5 situations that they were able to pull off when ordinarily you think a team would be able to shut them down. And yet to still only win a half 9-6, that's got to be a little bit concerning for me. Obviously, this second round pistol, or second half pistol, premium placed on it because Splyce, if they could get it under their belt, they'll start to pull away from AGG here. You can see that they've gone for a split approach, much like the CTs have themselves. They've actually got invert there spawning A main and does get a good frag there onto Professor Chaos and spots out Abe there opening the door, but with 2 of his teammates positioned well in A, he's under no real threat at the moment. I'm more interested to see which direction the bomb is going. Abe there does take down invert, so too aggressive there from invert. There was no need to take that duel there. He's punished as a result, and we find ourselves in a 4-on-4 situation.
They're just simply going to take their time and make this work because the CTs had to redistribute themselves across the sites, and it's not optimal because that's going to leave a big hole somewhere along this site defense, and it's up now to Splyce to try and exploit that, to try and find that and extend their lead just a little bit further. As we see that bomb make its way back down through mid, in fact, someone is going to be tasked with going up the boost and trying to exact some mid control. The bomb is just in that limbo zone as they spread themselves across the map. Abe, though, is the one to jump across, make that plunge, and get control of mid. So the CTs now are forced to even themselves out amongst the 2 sites. And great frag there from Els from underneath. He's traded out quite quickly by Jason R. And we'll look to find that second frag as well. So he's done a great job already, but they don't find this man on the site. Well played here from Ocean. He does grab the bomb. And now needs to know where these last remaining 2 terrorists are. Abe, though, is able to find that frag, just simply being the patient one. There was a lot of time to play with there. Ocean had a long time to try and defend that bomb in the site, and it really didn't look too likely that he was going to do so.
Yeah, a cheeky little play there. You can see that the coach of Team Splyce is just as confused as I think the Splyce members were to find that Ocean was hiding in the back of the side. I think that, whilst he showed a lot of skin there by jumping up in the box, I think what he was trying to do was leverage the fact that he could see over the smoke and try and catch 1 or 2, potentially, members of the Splyce team off guard. But obviously, given the fact that they were so close to B, they saw him jump up and punished him as a result. So Splyce here, they pull away a little bit. 10-6 the scoreline. Abe doing a good job, at least in the first couple of rounds of this half, of shutting down AGG and not letting them have their way. They've already got 2 frags very early on. So this is quite different to the pace in which we saw in Mirage, in which they were taking a lot of time. 2 frags going down in the first 20 seconds is much more promising and encouraging from these guys, because that's when they're playing the best. And you can see that Aria now connecting with his shots, the players seemingly coming alive. So looking more promising here for Team Splyce. They need to take some points away from tonight's encounter to have any chance of travelling to Croatia in 6 weeks' time to represent their region. The bomb will get planted in A, and business as usual from here on out. This will be 11-6. You can see that AGG, I mean, they've got no intent of trying to retake that site. They would if they could, but they realise that their best chance is just to try and potentially save a gun or even get an exit frag or 2.
And some nice bowling there from Abe.
Now, this is America. I think we have to go with, because of course bowling is a cricket.
Touchdown pass.
The touchdown pass.
Of course.
How many yards was that? I've got no idea.
It was at least 6.
At least 6 yards? Good touchdown pass, Sergio.
Yeah, 6-yard touchdown pass. Converting the points there, but nonetheless extending the lead that Splyce have, and more importantly, just getting those frags and making sure that there was no chance of them potentially saving out any gun at all. So, well worked here from Splyce, and of course another eco coming out from AGG. They are going to hedge all their bets on the A site, and as you can see from the overlay there, all 5 of them are sitting in the site. Abe, though, takes some heavy damage, and he's about to have some unwanted visitors as he tries to keep them out the door. There is no welcome mat sitting in front of that door, but of course they get the frag anyway. And it now just working their way across. This angry mob of counter-terrorists are vacating the A site.
Twist there does catch Ari off guard, so good positioning there. I think they were so focused and almost distracted by the footsteps, the stream of footsteps, I guess, charging down highway from the other 4 CTs in the A-bomb side, that they really didn't think to check the lockers room there, and they were punished as a result. So Splyce, whilst they got the touchdown pass last round, they haven't quite made the conversion here, as they are punished. Invert there with the triple there off the back of that double stack, and Team AGG say we're still in this match, and the fact that we're eco, that doesn't mean anything. And they're pausing to reflect on what was a fantastic eco round win.
Well, they need to get their coach in. The coach needs to connect.
Why is the coach only connecting now?
I'm not too sure.
Why
they need him now more than ever.
Okay, but from a Splyce perspective, I think the biggest thing that stood out for me that round, obviously poor old Abe was up against it when he opened the door to find 5 menacing CTs actually looking down upon him. But after he died, I'm just trying to figure in my head how many CTs potentially he might have seen. I mean, he definitely saw at least 2 to 3. Surely he would have seen maybe even 4, or at least heard the footsteps and the noise of that many members. The point I'm trying to make here is he would have known that there surely would have been an A stack on, but from a Splyce perspective, they didn't react to that. They didn't go to B quickly. They were content on taking their time. They slowly walked towards A. They were punished. I'm not quite sure what the communication was like there, but it just seems a little bit off.
Yeah, it was just a little bit off, wasn't it? It was certainly not effective in the sense that any sort of fluid team movement was put together there. But of course now they are into this gun round, and it's getting a little bit too hot for Abe in that squeaky door. He's just pushed out that Molotov, really just forcing the issue with him. He's down to half HP, and of course only got a Tech 9 as well. So this force by coming in from Splyce, trying to force the issue and crack that CT economy. So now make their way, of course, over towards the A site. The bomb is setting itself up, and they're a little bit hesitant to get in here. Whatever AGG have done is just slowed their momentum. Of course, they're making their way through and use the cover of that smoke to get the frag onto Ruru. Jason R finding a frag of his own. They still have to deal with Invert, though, at this quad box. Finds a second frag as well. So he's doing a great job already as he looks for this third and needs to prevent the bomb from going down. He's under a lot of pressure. Does find that frag anyway. Jason R not able to convert. And, of course, the bomb was planted in amongst all the confusion, but great work there with that AWP from Invert, just showing us that he himself can go into turret mode when deployed.
Incredible performance. I mean, look at the scoreboard at the moment. He got 3 frags that round. That's boosted him up to 18, so he's leading the way in the server. But the survivability factor, if you were to measure that round, that was epic from the man. The fact that he stayed alive just meant there was that ever-present threat there that the T's had to be aware of. And poor old Splyce were caught in between almost 2 battles there, where they had CTs retaking, but they also had Invert just lurking around that quad box there, just wrecking havoc any which way he looked. So fantastic job there by Invert. Massive play. And that's exactly what this team needs as they're starting to mount a comeback here. You can just feel the momentum. Slowly it's starting to shift in the way of AGG again.
Yeah, I haven't seen survival skills like that since Bear Grylls was taken off the air.
Was he taken off the air?
I haven't seen anything from him recently.
Maybe he didn't survive.
Maybe he's playing for AGG with the alias Invert.
Potentially. Well, we'll see how well they go because, Jim, they are setting back up here almost an identical replica of what happened last round. Another Tech 9 forced buy by Splyce. I don't like this buy. They're forcing the issue and going A now. The fact that 3 CT survived meant that their economy is already, I guess, self-sustaining at the moment. They don't need to force the issue. Twist is punishing them as a result. Aria, the first man to go down. You can see that Abe here has got into the site. They suspect that it is now clear. A little bit paranoid there about the quad box, obviously, after that haunting memory of Invert there last round. But as it is at the moment, they do get the bomb down. We can see Splyce here forced to defend with just pistols in hand. And Els just seemingly appears from nowhere. The nightmare is still real as that flank occurs. He takes down 2, gets a triple as well with that Tech 9, which ironically the T's had used to a quite good effect early on in the round. Proves to be the downfall in the end as Els does a fantastic job there of converting that round.
That he does. Great retake there from AGG. Of course, letting him into the site, but really just cleaning up the mess that was. And now, as a result of getting that plant, Splyce are able to bring themselves to afford a buy round, and I'd be interested to see how they deal with this because they really need to focus their attention more on mid, as I do believe AGG are almost, more often than not, quite happy to let them have it too, only playing that one man in the Z connector, so just opting to shore up the sites and, I guess, sort their defense that way.
I think the intent here right at the moment is just to put a lot of pressure on all the different choke points of the map. You can see that Davey has that, I guess, unenviable task of trying to keep 2 CTs distracted in the B bomb site. It's often a fine balance between trying to put pressure on the map, good fray there by Invert, trying to put pressure on a choke point, but also trying to stay alive and not put yourself in harm's way. It can be very difficult to sometimes balance that effectively. And we've already seen that Aria, the captain, in-game leader, Orpa, you name it, he ticks that box. He's already gone down at the hands of Invert, so potentially that's one of the reasons why they are steering clear of mid. They know that Invert's hot, he's hitting those shots with the AWP, he's already up to 20 frags, and he's opened up this round for his team, and you can see that the reaction from Splyce is to head back towards that B side, it looks like.
They are going to get that frag. Jason R opening things up, finding a second frag here in B main, so supporting his team well, taking down Els. He's going to look for that third frag onto the site, and able to do so. Ocean just trying to pick the fights there when not necessary for him to do so, just needed to utilize his team support a little bit more and lean on them when he wasn't strong. So that bomb goes down in the A site. Abe does get the plant and will smoke that CT connector again. Just that pressure coming in from heaven as Ruru looks to try and find the frag. That Molotov though will clear out underneath heaven, and they're both going to try and opt to take, as Jason R is so critically low. Does get a frag though, and Abe seizes that moment to push through CT. I don't know if Twist has actually recognised this, but nonetheless, Jason R seals the deal. Crisp 2-bullet headshot to really bring Splyce closer to that 15-round mark, or even further still, the 16-round mark.
Not just that, we've got to give massive props there to Jason R. That was actually an ace there. Got 5 kills in the round, so fantastic job. And really worked well with his teammate in the end to really manipulate the CTs and catch them off guard as they tried to come out of heaven there. I think some of the Molotov placement for AGG was just so unfortunately misplaced. They just missed the mark. There was one towards B main that wasn't quite effective by Ocean in stopping them getting into the site. I think there was one from heaven there as the bomb was being planted that didn't quite connect onto the planter. So it's a game of inches, as Al Pacino once said. But at the moment, we can see that AGG can force the issue still. They can afford to buy off the back of winning those rounds. And I like this setup that they've got going A at the moment. You can see that Ruru has been boosted up onto the Shroud boost. Meanwhile, Twist just trying to take all the attention away from Ruru at the moment and let them be convinced that he is the main danger, but we can see otherwise. Meanwhile, from a terrorist perspective, nothing changed from Splyce, Jim. I mean, they've just won the last round. Probably not as surprising to see them play the same way. Very, very passive. They have backed off from that presence that they did have at A, and now potentially going to be boosting a member or two across mid. So Els will be called into action here first by the looks of it.
Yeah, just opting to take some late mid control. And only one man standing in the form of resistance. Els is the one to try and face them here. He is at the short box with both Professor Chaos and Aria both coming out the mid and boost respectively. Aria finding that frag onto Els, so things starting to open up really in the mid here. They're actually opting to push here. Invert taking the fight to the people in B main. Davey and Jason R find frags respectively, and now will force their way onto that B side. The smokes will lock the CTs out. Really not too much Ruru can do from that position up there, and try and save his weapon, of course, caught doing so. Aria just caught him with his pants down, trying to vacate the scene and flee with his weapon. Of course, now Twist just caught over here at the quad box. It's not a bad place to say, but of course, leaving himself open to a lot of incoming.
It's pretty
teams.
bad now, as the Molotov lands at his feet. Pretty bad now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad now.
Yeah, not the best of places in hindsight. But no, I agree what you're saying. Normally it does give you a few vantage points, but I just think there was too much time left on that clock, and the intent from Splyce was clear. They wanted to take that gun out of his hands, and for good reason. If we look at the economy at the moment on the CT side, they're all strapped for cash around that 2.5 to 3K mark. Ocean was rocking out with 4K there, but his teammates are suffering a little bit more than he was. So they'll definitely be eco this round. You can see just a few pistols. They're really consolidating their money, looking forward to the next round. But Splyce, they're now taking a few steps forward, aren't they? 13-9. If they can just play this, I guess, with the same sort of methodical approach as they have the previous few rounds, then I'd expect to see them move ahead 14-9 here in what was ultimately their map choice. I guess they're desperate to take points away from this encounter tonight. They did go down on the first map, and to keep their championship hopes alive in this NA CounterPit qualifier, they must win this map, you'd have to say. And for the time being, it looks as though the CT is setting up a little bit of a trap at the A site. It's already worked once to great success earlier on in the half, where they're actually able to catch a few members off guard, Abe indoor, and then I think also perhaps Aria in A main, and ultimately they won that round, so they're banking off it working it again a second time. You can see Jim Jason R boost up here, and a minute's ticked by. It's time starting to run out here. They need to make their move. They're moving in towards the stack.
And Abe finds that frag eventually onto the catwalk there, as they are going to stream onto this side. Aria's just going to opt to get in with that pistol, just get things done. Even though he has an AWP strapped to his back, he doesn't care. He's straight in. And they are finding the frags there. L's able to find a trade frag where he needs to, but Ruru is unable to find one. So they are now putting a lot of pressure on this man on the truck. So not a lot he can do from that position other than try and fell a member of the opposition. A great headshot there from Aria, sealing the 14th round for Splyce, and of course close to that map victory. And at this stage, they really need to find that, find some points, find a draw, do what they need to, because if they lose, essentially that's where they are going to be at the biggest disadvantage. The team that wins out in the best of twos will probably see themselves rocket towards the top of that bracket.
That's right, and I mean, this is probably the do-or-die round for me. I think if AGG can't hold here, it could be the nail in the coffin, because they really don't have any bank to speak of. So a lot of pressure here on the shoulders of the Canadian team. 3 of the 5 members hailing from that region. We can see that they do have an AWP in the hands of Invert, but potentially will be Ocean who will be tested first. You can see that Davey, he's made his way into the site, but Ocean doesn't realise that. He's dropped Aria, not recognising that potentially Davey might be that close. So the trade has gone down. That will favour the T's, at least until the CT's managed another frag on another part of the map there. So Invert with a brutal shot there through the box onto the head of Davey. I don't know how he's pulled that off. Ruru, I guess, or I should say Professor Chaos, he's trying to trick me with all those O's in his name. Does take down L's, but in the end here, Splyce eventually now make their way with some safety. The utility has provided them into the site. The bomb will get planted. It is a 3-on-2 in which they must defend. You can see that Professor Chaos does spot the shoulder there of Ruru, and he does convert that frag. Good headshot there. So now only has to worry about CT spawn. Of course, Heaven and B lower to contend with. He does rotate around, takes down one member there. So Twist has fallen. It's all left up to one member in the form of Invert, who has an AWP at close range. He gets tagged down to 22 points of health. He jumps, and that's never going to work as you're going for a jumping AWP shot there. And Professor Chaos takes him down. Quad kill for the round. 15 rounds for Splyce, and they are on the verge now of claiming the map victory.
Professor Chaos, the high sensitivity wizard, just whipping up some magic, pulling a rabbit out of the hat, and I guess just whipping something else out of his sleeves there as the GoTV skips just a little bit. Of course, now we skip straight into the action there. Ruru actually finds a frag. The CTs find a famous frag over that site, but of course that bomb is making its way, and they're fighting across the world here, making their way across mid. Abe, though, is the man to take the plunge into the mid. He does try and fight that man at the short box, and again, a lot of pressure being put on AGG early on. It is a 4 versus 4, and things are starting to really break down here for the terrorists, as you see them just make their way towards A main. They really don't have too much territory at the moment, or too many frags, but they're looking, they're fighting.
Well, they're trying to keep their hopes alive here, the CTs, and they're really getting asked a lot of questions as we see Invert there. Cheeky little spam through the vents. I think he actually might have tagged one member, so that'll certainly help his cause. But you can see that the weaponry is just not doing the job at the moment. Abe gets to drop onto Ocean, and it'll be Scouts, it'll be 5-7s, and it'll be for Masses, in which AGG must rely on here to really keep their map hopes alive here. But Abe is doing a fantastic job, gets his second for the round, and all of a sudden the CTs find themselves isolated with no support to come by, and the T's, all they need to do here is regroup, I guess, force their way into a site, and by pure trades, they should win this match. You can see that L steps around the box, catches one off guard, but can't quite convert, and surely this will be the map going Splyce's way, as they do get the bomb down in B. Invert forced to retake here. Now, he does have a scout in hand. The only thing going in his favor is that he was able to recover an AK, so a little bit more manageable from his perspective. But Aria says no deal. He takes down Invert, 16-9, Splyce win a map. And from an AGG perspective, eventually they do fall. I mean, they did their best in that first half, you have to say, with losing some of those retakes to get Splyce going. But in the end, we do see 1-1 draw between the two teams. Fantastic night of Counter-Strike. And we do see teams sharing the points here, Drew.
Sharing the points once again. Of course, both teams doing themselves no harm in getting the draw, because as we've seen, it's so tight at the moment. They really had an opportunity to pull themselves away from the pack and getting a win. But as the tale of these two maps show, unfortunately that was not the case for either team, both winning their pick. Quite convincingly too, might I add. So promising signs from both teams. I think for me, AGG were really quite impressive on their terror side and Mirage, and on the flip side of that, Splyce very convincing on their CT side Cache. So that's really what won them their matches respectively. And more importantly, these young teams just taking the opportunity to I guess relish in a competitive environment that we'll see one of them potentially go overseas.
That's right. There's only 3 games left now until we know who will be the representative for the North American region. But I can't help but think when Team AGG, of course, Apparitions.game, that does stand for, when they reflect back on that second map there on Cache, I think that they'll be ruining so many missed opportunities that they had on the T side. Ultimately, they won 6 rounds in the first half. I'm still of the opinion that it should have been 10 or 11, given the situations in which they were putting themselves in after some great entry frading. But obviously, we can't change what has happened now and what is now history. All I can do is learn from those mistakes moving forward. But thank you so much to everyone that stuck around with us. I know there was a bit of a gap or a bit of a break there in between the two maps because the players were just changing servers, just wanting to make sure that everyone was in the ideal fragging conditions. Ultimately, that proved to be in Chicago, where we found out that the weather was, I think, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the ideal condition for the players. But no, it's been a fantastic night. I've been one of your casters, from Australia, mind you. You can follow me on Twitter at PKNoodle, and my ever-reliable and ever-quirky co-caster and producer, Jim Nesso. You can follow him on Twitter at DeepGimpact. We are the Peanut Gallery. We are so proud and privileged to be able to bring you guys this incredible Counter-Strike action here from North America and from Europe as well in the limited opportunities that we've had. But until next time, we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and see you later.